In this video I will cover Vladimir Putin's Munich speech as well as his pre-military operation speech, which culminated in the recognition of Donetsk and Luhansk. On Putin's Munich speech, he stated that a threat to security for one is a threat to security for all. This is the principle of indivisible security. If one country's security is threatened, then other countries' security is threatened. He stated that the Cold War left live ammunition. This was in reference to the volatile potential for post-Soviet conflicts. Ossetia and Donbass have happened since 2007. He stated that a unipolar world is undemocratic and dysfunctional. He stated that illegal unilateral wars caused suffering and paranoia, as well as a nuclear arms race. He stated that United Nations sanctioned military force is legitimate, and that military force sanctioned by the EU and NATO is not legitimate. However, it is a mistake to say that UN sanctioned military force is legitimate. The UN is a foreign policy tool of the United States, and if United Nations was legitimate, it would not have permanent Security Council members. Vladimir Putin also spoke against nuclear proliferation. Like, how can Russia, with its massive nuclear warhead stockpile, tell others not to obtain nuclear weapons? And the same logic applies to the United States. Who are the United States to tell others with its massive nuclear warhead stockpile not to obtain nuclear weapons? Especially after what they did to Libya, and stating that they were looking to use the Libyan model against Korea. Vladimir Putin, in his Munich speech, also addressed the issue of Transnistria and stated that the Russians are in Transnistria to guard the arms depot. Vladimir Putin also stated in the Munich speech that it was a security threat to have NATO expanding to Russia's border, and he reminded people that the not 1 inch east policy had been violated. He also pointed out that 26% of Russian oil it was drilled by foreign capital, and this is just imperialists jacking Russia's resources, and this was in 2007. And Vladimir Putin also pointed out that poverty causes extremism, and he concluded that the OSCE is a tool of Western imperialism. In his February speech, he pointed out that Russia and Ukraine are close neighbours. He pointed out that the Soviets created modern Ukraine. He condemned Stalin and Lenin for national liberation and conceding too much autonomy. He said they were too generous. And I would like to point out that their generosity was not the problem, but the West's refusal to respect Soviet nations' sovereignty was the problem that ultimately led to the downfall of the Soviet Union, unfortunately. Vladimir Putin stated that Russia will show Ukraine what decommunization really is. It is destroying Vladimir Lenin's Ukraine. Vladimir Putin also pointed out in February that the breakup of the Soviet Union destabilized Eurasia, and he is correct in that assertion. He pointed out that Russia spent over $250 billion on developing post-Soviet Ukraine. He pointed out that Russia paid the entire Soviet debt of $100 billion in 2017. And he pointed out that Ukraine's trade revenue from Russia was over $50 billion. He pointed out that Ukraine had become Russophobic and Nazist. He pointed out that the West spent over $1 million a day on the Maidan coup, which took over 3 months for the West to complete. He pointed out that the Odessa massacre did not lead to accountability for any of the murderers. He pointed out that the Maidan regime has impoverished Ukraine. He pointed out that the Maidan regime are privatizing puppets. He pointed out that Russian speakers are persecuted. He pointed out that Ukraine is seeking to rebuild its nuclear arsenal and that it is capable of rebuilding its nuclear arsenal. And this means that Ukraine poses an existential threat to Russia. Ukraine is a NATO outpost. He pointed out that Ukraine got Novorussia due to Russia taking it from Ottoman Turkey. He pointed out that the United States has bases in Ukraine, and he referred back to the principle of indivisible security, and that a threat to security for one is a threat to security for all. The point he had made in the Munich speech. He also referred to another point he made in the Munich speech: not 1 inch east. Luhansk is 2,182 kilometers from Berlin and Tbilisi is 3,196 kilometers from Berlin. That is the world's longest inch. Poland and Romania have tomahawks pointed at Russia. These missiles could hit Russia in a time between 5 minutes and 35 minutes, and Vladimir Putin described this as a knife to Russia's throat. He pointed out that NATO did not honour agreements with Russia on security, and he pointed out that NATO was not serious about diplomacy. He pointed out that Ukraine committed a blitzkrieg-style genocide against Donbass. He pointed out that Russia tried to implement the Minsk agreement and that Ukraine and the US had broke it wantonly. And he concluded his speech with the recognition of Donetsk and Luhansk.